Hello and welcome everybody from Australia, from Sydney. This time we'll visit the attractions of the CBD, the Central Business District. I will stay only 5 days here in Sydney, actually 4 nights, so it will be not enough to make a complete travel film as I usually do. But why is that so? Well, it's a little bit confusing. Usually I plan enough time to visit all attractions in each city, but this time actually I didn't even want to travel to Sydney. I booked my flight with AirAsia to Kuala Lumpur from Gold Coast, but that flight was cancelled and there was no alternative flight for this route. So I was thinking what to do. I could book another flight with another airline, but that was much more expensive. I mean like 3 or 4 times more expensive than AirAsia. So I chose to stay 4 days in Sydney. I flew from Gold Coast to Sydney. It was only 64 euro with Virgin Australia. That's also a low-cost airline, but it was reliable, and in that price also my big checked-in luggage was included, so I was happy actually with that purchase. So, well, after 4 days I will fly to Kuala Lumpur from Sydney, again with AirAsia, because actually this is the trick to fly home. As I mentioned already before in the travel vlog about Brisbane, that this is my itinerary, that I'm flying from Budapest to Kuala Lumpur through Doha with Qatar Airways, and then I take a flight with AirAsia, so this is how I can reduce the price. So yeah, from Sydney I will take a flight to Kuala Lumpur. Well, in this vlog I will present you then the attractions of CBD, the Central Business District, which is the center of Sydney, but the locals colloquially call it actually the town or the city. The residents of Sydney are called Sydneysiders usually. That is their nickname. In CBD there are 16,667 people living according to the last census. The whole city is absolutely huge. There are 5.2 million people living in this absolutely amazing city. The city of Sydney is the economical and financial center of Australia, as well as a leading hub of economic activity in the whole Asia-Pacific region. So Sydney is the most populous city of Australia. Culturally, the city center is Sydney's focal point for nightlife and entertainment, and here you can find the most significant buildings and structures. Many historical buildings can be found in CBD. Another interesting fact about the city center of Sydney is that you can find many modern skyscrapers here. They are growing out from the grounds like mushrooms, many tall skyscrapers, and next to them there are some beautiful parks, a lot of green spaces in Sydney. And the other contrast is that next to these modern skyscrapers we can also find old buildings, like for example this one, the Queen Victoria building, which is a huge shopping center, and it was built between 1893 and 1898 in revival Romanesque architectural style. Well, I will tell about it later, and we also go inside. So now let's get started. Let's do our sightseeing trip in the city center. It will be absolutely amazing, so I really recommend to watch the complete vlog. Now I will present you the attractions of Sydney Harbour. In front of us is the Central Business District, and I already presented you the Opera House, absolutely iconic building of Australia, so I will not include that recording again. This is the Sydney Harbour Bridge, a steel through arch bridge spanning Sydney Harbour from the Central Business District which is on my left side, to the north shore, that is on our right side. So the view of the bridge, the harbour and the nearby Sydney Opera House is widely regarded as an iconic image of Sydney and of Australia itself. The bridge is also nicknamed the coat hanger because of its arch-based design. The bridge carries rail, vehicular, bicycle and pedestrian traffic. Under the direction of engineer John Bradfield of the New South Wales Department of Public Works, the bridge was designed and built by British firm Dorman Long of Middlesbrough and opened in 1932. Construction started in 1923, so it took 9 years to construct this bridge. It is the 10th longest spanning arch bridge in the world and the tallest steel arch bridge, measuring 134 from top to water level. It is also visitable. There is a climb over there. I don't know if you can see those small ants climbing the bridge. I will take another recording with my phone to zoom on them. So yes, you can climb to the summit of the bridge, which is absolutely expensive, between 250 Australian dollars and 370 if I remember well, but it varies when do you want to go. After twilight, when you don't see so much but you can enjoy the night lights, or it also depends if you just want to go to the summit or you want to go through the bridge and then come back. So there are many options. I will tell more about it later. So this bridge was also the world's widest long span bridge at 48.8 meters wide, until the construction of the new Portman Bridge in Vancouver was completed in 2012. The main roadway across the bridge is known as the Bradfield Highway and is about 24 kilometers long, making it one of the shortest highways in Australia. There had been plans to build a bridge as early as 1814, when a convict and noted architect Francis Greenway reputedly proposed to Governor Lachlan Macquarie that a bridge be built from the northern to the southern shore of the harbour. In 1825, Greenway wrote a letter to the then Australian newspaper stating that such a bridge would give an idea of strength and magnificence that would reflect credit and glory on the colony of the mother country. Nothing came of Greenway's suggestions, but the idea remained alive. The vehicular traffic lanes on the bridge are operated as a toll road. The toll varies from a minimum value of $2.50 to a maximum value of $4, but maybe it's more, since I did the research of this vlog, because they keep increasing it. The most noticeable maintenance work on the bridge involves painting. That's an interesting story. The steelwork of the bridge that needs to be painted is a combined 485,000 square kilometers, the equivalent of 60 football fields. Actor Paul Hogan, mostly known as Crocodile Dundee, started as a bridge painter here. He was painting the bridge and then became a famous actor, so that also shows that people should never give up and try to motivate themselves in order to improve. The Harbour Bridge has been an integral part of the Sydney New Year's Eve celebrations, generally being used in spectacular ways during the fireworks displays at 9 p.m. and midnight. So many tourists come to Sydney in order to celebrate New Year's Eve. There are the small ants. Those are not pigeons, those are people climbing to the summit of the Harbour Bridge. This is the circular quay, a harbour, former working port and now international passenger shipping port, public square and tourism precinct, also heritage area and a transport node. The circular quay area is a popular neighborhood for tourism and consists of walkways, pedestrian malls, parks and restaurants. It hosts a number of ferry wharfs, bus stops and railway stations. Often referred to as the gateway to Sydney, the precinct has views of the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Sydney Opera House, and is a common location for viewing Sydney New Year's Eve fireworks. Circular quay was constructed between 1837 and 1844 by reconstructing the southern section of Sydney Cove with an artificial shoreline. The harbour was originally known as a semicircular quay, this being the actual shape of the quay. The name was shortened for convenience. As you can see, it is semicircular actually, reflecting circular quay's status as a central harbour for Sydney. The custom house was built on the southern shore in 1844. Finished in 1845. In 1853, Henry Gilbert Smith chartered the wooden pedal wheeler brothers to bring people to the Manly area and thus boost the value of the subdivision of his land holdings near the Corso. The Manly area with its beaches and bays became a popular weekend destination, and more ferries were chartered. So from here actually you can take a ferry to Manly. In 1859 the first double-ended ferry called Phantom commenced the service. She was a success, and the double-ended configuration remains the standard on the Manly route through the present day. Flight to the summit costs 344 Australian dollars until 5 p.m. and after 5 p.m. it is $294. This is the price to climb to the summit. And there's also another trip which is called the Ultimate, which means that you can conquer the entire bridge from south to north and then back again. That takes a longer time, and there are different prices based on the time slot. So if you want to climb during the day from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. then it is $364, and between twilight time 3 p.m. 4 p.m. it costs $394. This is the most expensive trip, but if you take this ultimate trip from 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. then it is $298. There's also one which is called the Summit Insider. It is $354, a journey through the Cathedral of Steel along the lower arch to the summit. And another one is called the Burawa or Aboriginal Climb, $374, scale to the summit of the Sydney Harbour Bridge with the First Nations storyteller as your tour guide. So you can become immersed in Sydney's Aboriginal history. At the beginning of the bridge is the Pylon Lookout. One of the ongoing tourist attractions of the bridge has been the southeast pylon, which is accessed via the pedestrian walkway across the bridge, and then a climb to the top of the pylon of about 200 steps. We can see the best Sydney has to offer from the original city lookout, including a unique view of the Sydney Harbour's icons, the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Sydney Opera House. Not long after the bridge's opening, beginning with 1934, Archer Whitford first converted this pylon into a tourist destination. He installed a number of attractions, including a cafe, an Aboriginal museum, a mother's nook where visitors could write letters, mostly to their moms if they wanted. The main attraction was the viewing platform, where charming attendants, local Aussie beautiful women, assisted the visitors to use the telescopes available. Through the museum we can also discover a number of exhibits about the construction of the bridge, the brave workers and interesting artifacts from the personal collection of Chief Engineer J.J.C. Bradfield. after 200 stairs, absolutely breathtaking view awaits us. Splendid. It's amazing, I cannot find words. Entrance fee is $30, but it's worth. Oh my god. So the Queen Victoria building, it was designed as a marketplace, but it was used for a variety of other purposes. It underwent remodeling and suffered decay until its restoration and returned to its original use in the late 20th century. The property is owned by the city of Sydney and was added to the New South Wales State Heritage Register on the 5th March of 2010. I just wanted to wait until the tram is passing by, but well, if I will do this all the time, then I will not finish this recording, because they are coming every 10 and 3 minutes. Absolutely amazing building. It was designed by architect George McRae in a Romanesque revival style and built between 1893 and 1898. It is 30 meters wide by 190 meters long. The domes were built by the Ritchie Brothers, a steel and metal company that also built trains, trams and farm equipment back at that time. The building was named in 1897 as the Queen Victoria Market buildings in commemoration of her Diamond Jubilee. It was a Diamond Jubilee of Queen Victoria, Queen of Australia and of the United Kingdom and Ireland that time. So yeah, it was named after Queen Victoria, and it provided a business environment for tailors, mercers, hairdressers, florists and coffee shops, as well as showrooms and a concert hall. In the first few decades, the building had the atmosphere of an oriental bazaar. After the markets originally held in the building were relocated in 1910, the name was changed in 1918 to Queen Victoria Buildings. Finally, in 1987, the council rescinded the 1918 resolution and named it Queen Victoria Building. So now we can find again shops and cafes and restaurants inside the Queen Victoria Building, and because of that the entrance is for free. We can just walk inside and take a look. But if you are interested about more details, well, comparing to my introduction, then you can also book online a tour of this amazing building. It is 25 Australian dollars, but please remind that you should book it online, and then a tour guide will tell more about the building, and you will walk around together with other tourists in the Queen Victoria Building.
I'm gonna go up there anyway.
Keep sniffing around. These clocks are also absolutely amazing. Beautiful piece of art. and the clocks also depict some moments of the Australian history. For example, here some convicts are punished by British soldiers. Some other paintings or figures, scenes show the life of the Aboriginal people before the arrival of the British. So they're also not forgotten on these historical paintings, figures. Amazing clocks. In front of the Queen Victoria building is the George Street, which is the oldest street of Sydney. Absolutely crazy that this street was once a nameless track trodden by convicts fetching supplies of water. As I mentioned in the vlog of Brisbane, the British Empire imported to Australia many convicts, and that was not different in the current territory of Sydney. But nowadays this George Street is one of the city's major traffic arteries, where we can find high-rise office blocks, shops and historic buildings. Next to the Queen Victoria building we can find the Queen Victoria Monument, a statue of Queen Victoria which was made by John Hughes in 1901. It was originally located in Dublin, It was the last royal statue to have been erected in Ireland. In 1922, 14 years after the statue's installation, Leinster House had become the seat of the Irish Parliament. The Oireachtas and the nationalistic sentiment disapproved of having a British Queen celebrated in such a location. So the statue had by now been given the nickname the Old Bitch by Irish writer James Joyce. So it was removed from its original location in July of 1948 and replaced with a car park. In the mid 1980s, the iconic Queen Victoria building in central Sydney was undergoing major renovations. After decades of disuse, and appropriate public art was being sought for the entrance. So in 1987, the statue was installed at its present location, 43 years after it had last been on a display. The most famous park of Sydney and of Australia is the Hyde Park. It is the oldest public parkland in Australia. It is pretty large, 16.2 hectares. At the time of the European settlement in 1788, the local Aboriginal people hunted ducks in the swampy marshes that were to become Hyde Park. From 1788, this was a place where soldiers could be quickly assembled in case of a convict rebellion. It was probably the site of a bloody battle between Aboriginal people and Europeans for control of land around Sydney, and it was also the site of an important Aboriginal contest ground where fistfights took place. Before 1810, the area was known as the Common, the exercising ground, cricket ground or racecourse. Only later, the governor of New South Wales, Macquarie, formally reserved it as an open space and the first public park set aside in Australia. So Macquarie named it Hyde Park after the great Hyde Park in London, north-west of Westminster, near Buckingham Palace. Ten days after Macquarie named it Hyde Park, it was the venue for Australia's first organized horse race. It also became a favorite place for cricket and a playground for local schoolboys. And one more interesting fact about the park: in 1910, Sydney's first women's public lavatory was built in the park near the corner of Park and Elizabeth streets. That was not allowed until that year. You can find here absolutely huge trees and also some old remnants of colonial buildings, like this pavilion in front of us, but also many memorials, like the memorial of Captain James Cook. Hyde Park is broadly rectangular with a rounded northern end. Its landscape design offers shady avenues, green sward areas and colorful vistas. Its layout and monuments offer a sense of the city's and nation's history, and its design reflects certain aspirations which have found expressions in its vistas, layout and monuments. Look at this absolutely huge tree. I think it is at least 100 years old. The park is centered on its great shaded promenade under magnificent mature hill sticks. Dense and lacy, these trees have grown tall and now dominate the planting and the design, despite some having to be removed due to fungus attack in recent years. Hyde Park's landmark is the ennek memorial. If you watch the vlog about Brisbane, then you know what is ennek. The term ennek began as an acronym for the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps in World War I, but it was soon accepted as a word in its own right. So this is the ennek memorial in Sydney, which is a heritage listed war memorial, museum and monument located in the south part of the Hyde Park. The Art Deco monument was designed by C. Bruce Dalit, with the exterior adorned with monumental figural reliefs and sculptures by Rainer Hoff, and built from 1932 to 1934 by Kelt and Rigby. This state-owned property was added to the New South Wales State Heritage Register in 2010. The building is constructed of concrete with an exterior cladding of pink granite. It is positioned atop a cruciform pedestal, within which are located administrative offices and a small museum. The interior is largely faced in with marble, absolutely beautiful white marble, and it features a domed ceiling adorned with 120,000 gold stars, one for each of those men and women from New South Wales who served during the first bloody conflict of the world. The main focus of the interior is Rainer Hoff's monumental bronze sculpture of a deceased youth representing a soldier held aloft on his shield by a caryatid, three female figures representing his mother, sister and wife. The male figure's nudity was considered shocking at the time of the monument's opening, and it is said to be the only such representation of a naked male from within any war memorial. Two other even more controversial figural sculptures designed by Hoff, one featuring a naked female figure, were never installed on the eastern end and western faces of the structure as intended, partly as a result of opposition from high-ranking representative of the Catholic Church.
are place names taken from the enlistment forms of soldiers and nurses who served in the First World War. I'm sure there's many that are familiar. There's definitely a Bishop somewhere over there. Anyway, we'll find Bishop in just a moment. So, yeah, it's incredible to think 1,701 places from all around New South Wales. And next to each of the place names, we have these little canisters, these little urns almost.
Sydney has traditionally been quite a Catholic city, and this is a hub of the faith, the St. Mary's Cathedral. Absolutely huge structure. It is 106 meters long, and it was built in Gothic revival style. Sandstone was used. The construction began in 1868, but you can imagine it takes many decades to finish such a huge building. So it was consecrated already in 1905 and substantially finished in 1928, though the massive 75-meter high spire weren't added until 2000. You can also visit the crypt for $5 from 10 AM until 4 PM on weekdays, so now on Saturday is closed. So the crypt has bishop's tombs and has an impressive cross-shaped terrazzo mosaic floor depicting the creation, inspired by the Celtic style illuminations of the Book of Kells. The best time to visit is in the early morning and the late afternoon, when the sun streams through the side-stained glass windows made in Birmingham in England. Well, now it is very rainy, so we cannot expect sunshine in the next hours or probably during the whole day. The cathedral has an unusual north-south orientation rather than the traditional east-west one facing the rising sun, due to its size and the lie of the land. So that's the reason why the sun is shining so. Another attraction of the Hyde Park is the G.F. Archibald fountain. It is a memorial fountain, and it was named after G.F. Archibald, owner and editor of the Bulletin magazine, who bequeathed funds to have it built. Archibald specified that it must be designed by a French artist, both because of his great love of French culture and to commemorate the association of Australia and France in World War I. He wished Sydney to aspire to Parisian civic design and ornamentation. The artist chosen was François-Léon Sicard, who completed it in Paris in 1926, but unfortunately he never saw the sculpture be placed in Sydney, where it was unveiled on the 14th March of 1932 by the Lord Mayor of Sydney, Samuel Walder. So in the end Archibald got his memorial fountain, and it's absolutely beautiful. One of the most beautiful fountains of Sydney. It also owns this title. And in the background is the St. Mary's Cathedral. This is the statue of Lachlan Macquarie, Governor of New South Wales. The people of Sydney can be thankful to him because he was the first who thought beyond of a convict settlement. He constructed many buildings here. For example, the Hyde Park barracks. It's a building from 1817. So many sandstone buildings were raised in that time. There you can also see under the clock Lachlan Macquarie, Governor, 1817. And this street was named in honor of the first Governor of New South Wales, Lachlan Macquarie. A sweat of splendid sandstone colonial buildings graces this street, defining the central city's eastern edge. Many of these buildings were commissioned by Lachlan Macquarie with a vision of Sydney beyond its prison camp origins. He enlisted convict architect Francis Greenway to help realize his plans, and together they set a gold standard for architectural excellence that the city has tried and sometimes failed to replicate over the years. This is also a beautiful colonial era building. This is the Parliament House in Sydney. It is a heritage listed complex of buildings housing the Parliament of State of New South Wales. The facade consists of a two-story Georgian building, the oldest public building in the city of Sydney, flanked by two neo-Gothic additions containing the parliamentary chambers. It was built with the initial purpose of a public hospital. Unlike the parliamentary buildings of Australia's other capital cities, Sydney's Parliament House is not grand in its architectural appearance. Several plans for a new building have been unveiled in the past, but none have come to fruition. The main entrances are contained in a two-story building with a colonnaded front veranda. This is a typical colonial architecture, as you can see. And it's a funny story that the building of three two-story colonnaded buildings was completed in 1816 and was praised as elegant and commodious, but also criticized. But the funny thing is that there was no funding from the British government, so the construction of the hospital was built by locals in exchange for a monopoly on the rum trade. So over there you can also see some additional buildings, and now the government doesn't seat there. There is the Sydney Hospital. That was the original purpose of all buildings, right on my right side, and also this one in front of me. So it was just a hospital, and the locals collected all the money. They raised the funds to build the hospital, and in exchange the British government gave them the privilege of trading rum. So this is the oldest building in Sydney. As at 19th December of 2012, Parliament House is of exceptional historical and social value. It gained this ranking because it has played a key role in the history of Australia, from an early symbol of colonial government and the civil improvement to its long tenure as the first New South Wales Parliament House and association with the Federation of the Australian colonies. And also one more interesting fact is that this is the world's oldest continually operating parliament building. I forgot to mention that all these buildings are located on the Macquarie Street, so these were also built during the reign of Macquarie, the first governor of New South Wales. And over there, that colonial building is the Rum Hospital, but also actually this in front of us is working, currently is working as a hospital, and over there in that building you can find a museum. This is Sydney's oldest church, built in 1819, and it was designed by Francis Greenway, very popular architect back that time. It was built from convict-made bricks. That's also an amazing, or I don't know, strange fact about it. It was originally designed as a courthouse, but the brief changed and the cells became the crypt. We can check out dark wood shower loft, the sparkling copper dome, and the crypt, and also the stained glass windows, which are also called creation window. It's worth reading the marble plaques along the walls for some insights into the early colonial life and exploration. A more recent plaque commemorates former Prime Minister Go Whitlam and his partner Margaret. Music is also a very strong point here, and the classical concerts happen at 1:15 p.m. on Wednesdays between March and December, and you must just leave $5 donation. You can check the website of the church for these concerts. The government house is a heritage listed vice-regal residence of the governor of New South Wales, located in the Sydney Central Business District, adjacent to the Royal Botanic Garden, overlooking Sydney Harbour, just south of the Sydney Opera House. In 1835, the British government agreed that a new government house in Sydney had become a necessity, and the royal architect Edward Bloor was instructed to draw up the plans. It was designed in the Romantic Gothic Revival style. Constructed between 1837 and 1843, the property has been the vice-regal residence of the governor since Sir George Gipps, except for two brief periods. Between 1901 and 1914, the building was used to house the new role of Governor General, created by the Federation of Australia. Between 1996 and 2011, the property ceased to be used as a residence of the governor because of political disputes. In October 2011, the then Premier Barry O'Farrell announced that the then Governor Mary Bashir had agreed with O'Farrell's offer to move back into government house. Today the house holds a significant collection of portraits, furniture, decorative arts and gubernatorial memorabilia as a result of vice-regal patronage.
And then halfway through, the governor stands up and says, "Would the ladies care to withdraw?" In other words, and they go through the drawing room. This is your fourth withdrawing. So the withdrawing through here, where Matt is, and the men sit around to business. But it's, I mean, yeah, it's a bit, yeah, it's obviously incredible. But no, smoking has come into much later. Smoking is very much a working class thing. But the governors, obviously we don't do it as a sexist thing, but it does make sense, because there's no getting into a breakout room at a meeting.
Yeah, but nowadays you don't tell women to leave the room.
Oh, not especially not the female governor. But we do split them up. We do get the plus ones to withdraw.
Of course, there is also a beautiful garden belonging to the government house, which looks like a castle for me. A medieval castle. This is the 309 meters tall Sydney Tower, the city's tallest building. As you can see, it's raining, so probably we will not see anything, but it is my last day in Sydney, so I don't have any chance. The sky will not be sunny later, so let's just go upstairs and take a look. Maybe we will see some of the skyline at least, not just clouds. So we got upstairs very quickly. There was no queue and the elevator is really fast. So this is the Sydney Tower Eye, also known as Center Point Tower. It is the tallest structure of Sydney. The tower stands 309 meters above the Sydney Central Business District. One of the most prominent tourist attractions in the city, being visible from a number of vantage points, Darrow town and from adjoining suburbs. It is interesting that Auckland's Sky Tower is taller, but Sydney Tower's main observation deck is almost 30 meters higher than the observation deck on Auckland's Sky Tower. So you cannot say that Sydney Tower is the tallest structure in Oceania, in the Pacific Ocean region, but it has a splendid viewing platform. It was designed by Australian architect Donald Crown. The first plans were revealed in March of 1968. Construction of the office building started in 1970 and tower construction began in 1975. Public access to the tower began in September of 1981. The total cost of construction was 36 million Australian dollars. In 1998, the addition of a lightning rod to the top of spire extended the tower's overall height from 305 meters to 309 meters. There's also a bar called 360 bar. You can also eat here. There's a restaurant, fine dining. They offer revolving views of the Sydney skyline. They are located on level 1 of the Sydney Tower. Sydney Tower Buffet, a contemporary self-select restaurant, is one of the tower's second level. A studio, located on level 3, can cater for cocktail functions for 200 people and 156 sit-down guests. The observation deck is currently called the Sydney Tower Eye. Is on the level 4 of the Sydney Tower. This is where we are now. There's also a special feature of the tower, which is called the Skywalk. It's an open-air glass-floored platform encircling the Sydney Tower Eye at a height of 260 meters above ground level. To that you need to pay extra. There was actually an incident on the 8th March of 2018. The skywalk was closed for 5 weeks following the suicide of a 21-year-old woman who removed her safety harness and leaped from the tower while on a tour. The skywalk reopened then on the 12th April of 2018 after conducting a probe into the incident and the tower having upgraded the safety equipment. This is the Hyde Park, not just this part but also that part. A highway splits it in two, but actually it's one park. There is the Archibald fountain, very famous, and over there is the Ennek memorial, Australian and New Zealand Army Corps memorial. And that beautiful building is the St. Mary's Cathedral, also very beautiful structure, very beautiful temple.
Just that in and give me a.
Yeah, I guess light
Over there is the Queen Victoria building. We can recognize it also from the copper cupola. Absolutely amazing, beautiful building. In front of it is the George Street. And over there, oh no, it's hard to point in the camera, I don't know if you can see it, is the tower of the City Hall. Maybe it's too small, so hard to point on that. Still a nice view. Now we'll visit the Sea Life Sydney Aquarium, formerly called Sydney Aquarium, which is a public aquarium that features a large variety of Australian aquatic life, displaying more than 700 species, comprising more than 13,000 individual fish and other sea and water creatures from most of Australia's water habitats. If you ask why I'm taking the introduction outside, probably inside will be too busy, so I was thinking I will tell about the zoo here outside, and then we'll just enjoy the view inside, as I usually do. So this zoo was opened in 1988, and it is regarded as one of Sydney's premier tourist attractions, with over 55 of its visitors each year coming from overseas. So also Australians come to visit this zoo. The aquarium features 14 deemed zones, including Jurassic Seas, Discovery Rock Pool, Shark Walk, and the world's largest Great Barrier Reef display. So it will be absolutely amazing to go inside and discover all the attractions of this zoo. Along the way, visitors encounter animals unique to each habitat, including one of only 4 dugongs on display in the world, sharks, stingrays, penguins, and tropical fish, among others. It's an interesting story how the dugongs arrived here. They were rescued after washing up orphaned on the Queensland, one of Queensland's beaches, and attempts to return them to the wild failed. So here in this zoo, a so-called Dugong Island enclosure was built. As sad as it is to see such a large marine mammal in captivity, it also offers a fascinating and rare opportunity to get close, and as I said, they couldn't let them go back to the wild, so it's better to save their lives and keep them here in this zoo. There's also interesting opportunity to jump into the tank with the sharks. Here is the advertising about it. So this is the shark dive extreme, which gives you a half an hour experience. It is expensive, $299, which includes the aquarium admission, or you can also choose to just dive, so that would be $239. Well, I will not do this. I don't know why people survive this tour. Maybe the sharks are fed before, so they are not hungry, or I don't know. I really not an expert of wildlife and of sharks, so as you can see, this guy is just posing with the sharks, so yeah, maybe it's a Photoshop, but still. Other add-on activities include an icy penguin encounter and a glass-bottomed boat ride in the main tank.
What's that fish? What's that? Isn't that a dugong? No. What is that? Yeah, it's a dugong.
And then there's Dory inside. You see Dory?
You want to go back and then it's the goal?
This is the dugong.
Look here. You can do anything you want. Look, James.
This was the general post office in the colonial era. It is a heritage listed landmark of Sydney and commonly known as Sydney GPO after abbreviation. The original building was constructed in two stages beginning in 1866 and was designed under the guidance of colonial architect James Barnett. Composed primarily of local Sydney sandstone mined in Pyrmont, the primary load-bearing northern facade has been described as the finest example of the Victorian Italian Renaissance style in New South Wales and stretches 114 meters, making it one of the largest sandstone buildings of Sydney. One more interesting fact is that the clock tower was disassembled in 1942 to reduce the visibility of the GPO in case of an air attack on Sydney, and then it was rebuilt in 1962. So this is how it was defended during the Second World War. The building houses now shops, restaurants, hotel rooms and the foyer of two adjoining tower blocks after it was privatized in 1966. I don't really understand why these religious activists play such loud music. It will be harder for me to yell louder and present the town hall of Sydney. The Sydney Town Hall is a late 19th century heritage listed town hall building. It houses the chambers of the Lord Mayor of Sydney, council offices and venues for meetings and functions. It was designed by more architects, not just one. John H. Wilson, Edward Bell, Albert Bond, Thomas Sepsford, John Hennessy and George McRae were the designers, and it was built from 1869 until 1889 by more construction companies. Kelly and MacLeod, Smith and Bennett, MacLeod and Noble, and J. Stewart and Co. The Sydney Town Hall is built within the former old Sydney burial ground. The cemetery was Sydney's first permanent cemetery, and it is estimated that at least 2,000 burial ceremonies were held in this place. So this was the old Sydney burial ground between 1792 and 1820. They just constructed the town hall on the cemetery. The town hall was built from local Sydney sandstone in the grand Victorian Second Empire style, and it was inspired by the French Second Empire Hotel de Ville in Paris. This is Australia's oldest cathedral, the St. Andrew's Cathedral, designed primarily by Edmund Blackett on foundations laid by James Hume. The cathedral was built from 1837 to 1868 and was ready for services and consecrated in 1868, making it the oldest cathedral in Australia. St. Andrew's is one of the city's finest examples of Gothic revival architecture. Joanne Kerr described it as a perfect example of the colonial desire to reproduce Joanne Kerr described the cathedral as a perfect example of the colonial desire to reproduce England in Australia in the middle of the 19th century. St. Andrew's has an evangelical ministry holding services every day, including a weekly healing service. There's also a cathedral choir of men and boys who sing during term time, as well as a company of bell ringers. Unfortunately, we cannot go inside because it is open kinda rarely. And now it is Saturday. In the weekend it's not open. On Saturday and Sunday it is closed, but we can just wander about it from outside. It's absolutely amazing neo-Gothic cathedral. This is the Dixon Street, which is the heart of Chinatown. A narrow, shady pedestrian mall with a string of restaurants and a lot of Chinese shops. There's also a dragon gate at the end of the street with fake bamboo ties. Golden Chinese calligraphy and ornamental lions will also go there. Chinatown is in general a fabulous eating district which extends for several blocks north and south of Dixon Street, so you can find many Chinese restaurants not just on this street but also in the surrounding area. Many Chinese people are living here. It is interesting that in each global city of the world you can find a Chinatown almost in each big city. This is actually Sydney's third Chinatown. The first was in the rocks in the late 19th century before it moved to the darling harbour end of Market Street. Dixon City's Chinatown dates from the 1920s, so this is where we are now. So this is the gate of Chinatown, typical Chinese gate.
佢個仔，然後就
Well, yeah, like things that.
This is a very special and very interesting sculpture and fountain called Golden Water Mouse. This sculpture comprises of a trunk of a yellow box eucalyptus tree, partly covered with a 23-carat gold leaf applied over fiberglass, mounted on a terracotta tile base set into the pavement. Standing 10.7 meters high, the sculpture is located on the corner of Hay and Sussex Street in Haymarket, a symbolic entry point to Chinatown. The artwork uses Chinese Feng Shui principles mixed with Australian native materials, including the yellow box tree, gold, earth and water. A wooden pagoda would traditionally be built at this stage to protect the rivers and ensure wealth to the village. Water flows from the golden sculpture to symbolize money and life. The use of gold leaf also provides a historical link to the early Chinese settlers in the gold fields that surrounded the site of the tree's original location in Condobolin, New South Wales. It was installed in September 1999 and unveiled to the public in October of that year, created by the Chinese artist Lin Li. And now let's take a walk in the Royal Botanic Gardens. An absolutely amazing garden with local Australian plants and vegetation. It will be very nice, so let's go inside. It is located southeast of the Opera House and it was established in 1816. It features plant life from around the world, not just from Australia. Within the gardens are hothouses with palms and ferns. In front of us is a fern house. As well as there's a Calyx, a striking exhibition space featuring a curving glass house gallery with a wall of greenery and temporary plant themed exhibitions. This is the fernery. The gardens include the site of the colony's first poultry vegetable patch, but their history goes back much further than that. Long before the convicts arrived, this was an initiation ground for the Gadigal people. So, on the territory of the current Sydney, there were and there are also some Gadigal people, the Aboriginals. You can also take a guided walk, 1.5 hours, which departs from the visitor center at 10:30 AM daily. So each day you have only one slot to walk around. But between March to November there's also at 1 PM on weekdays only. On weekend the 1 PM slot doesn't go for a tour. So online you can also book an Aboriginal heritage tour with an indigenous guide. That's also an option, but if you are a lone tourist like me, then it will be harder. If you are traveling with a group, then it's easier to book such a tour. So this is the information which I wanted to tell you about the Royal Botanical Gardens. The Australia Square Tower is an office and retail complex in the central business district. It was designed by Harry Zeidler and the construction was completed in 1967. Until 1976 was the tallest building in Sydney. It was the world's tallest lightweight concrete building at the time it was built. The tower building is approximately 170 meters tall. Today it remains a landmark building in Sydney and is regarded as iconic to Australian architecture. On the 47th floor is a revolving restaurant called The Summit, and the 48th floor houses an observation deck, but that is unfortunately closed. I didn't find any information about it, why it is closed. Probably it was no profit. This is the Darling Harbour. It was named after Lieutenant General Ralph Darling, who was a governor of New South Wales from 1825 to 1831. The area was originally known as Long Cove, but was generally referred to as Cockle Bay until 1826, when Governor Darling renamed it after himself. You can find here many shops and restaurants, and also some attractions such as the Sea Life Sydney Aquarium, Wildlife Sydney Zoo, and Madame Tussauds, and many others.
Yeah, not too bad.
So this was the vlog about the central business district of Sydney. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if that's so, please subscribe to my channel if you didn't do it yet. It's very important to push on the bell icon because this is how you get notified about the new contents. Have a nice day and goodbye.
Oh, that's la la life. That's la la life. Baby, let it be. Enjoy the memory. Oh, that's la la life.